Creating a loan calculator. Alright, there will not be a starter file for this project because it's really not that helpful to have one. So what we're going to start with is a situation where you're trying to decide what you can afford to spend on a car. Let's just make this column where the labels are going to go a little bit wider, and then let's merge this and create a title. So this is our car loan calculator. I used backspace where I was typing the wrong characters, by the way. Alright, so just some moderate shading, and perhaps we'll go with a dark color bolded. And now there are going to be a number of factors that go into a car loan, and this is what's important here, is that any of these things can change. First thing, of course, is the principal, or the, let's use more regular terminology, amount of loan. So what are you going to borrow to pay for the car? And let's right align that and italicize it. And then we can create another thing here, and this now is going to be the length of loan. Let's specify years. As you can see, I still didn't make it wide enough. That's okay, it'll come. Length of loan, interest rate, and we specify APR, which means annual percentage rate. Almost always your interest rates are quoted in years. I'm sorry, for 1 year, so annual percentage rate, and then of course we have to break it out from there. So I have an amount of loan, length of loan, and interest rate. I'm going to take the formatting from that one, apply it to these, and then auto size, double click where the mouse is as it appears here, double click, and it auto sizes to fit everything. And then last but not least, this is what we're looking down at the bottom to face, and that is the payment. And in this case, and it's not always the case, but in this case it is going to be what it often is, and that is monthly. So in this case now, Excel, interestingly enough, figured out that it could format it probably the same as these others, and actually we're going to add bolding to that because of drawing attention to this. Alright, so then let's start by putting in some values here. Let's suppose that you have a target of $5,000, which most of you will gasp at trying to buy a car for that, but you know, I'm a poor professor, so I'm going to go with that. And I want to pay it off within 3 years, and the interest rate on a car loan could be somewhere else, but let's say it's 5%. Now, as I enter this, please notice it enters it as 5%, but behind the scenes, if I change the format, that's actually 0.05, because of course 5% is 5 over 100. So because I typed it in with the percent symbol, Excel figured out that it should enter the 0.05 value and immediately add the percentage format. So there we have the interest rate. Now the key here is the function, and in this case the function is payment. But let's walk through the process of finding out what that function should be. This symbol here says insert function, so we're going to click on that, and it comes up with a number of different things. Now the payment function is a financial function, so let's do financial and press go. So it goes through and it tries to find a number of things: present value, future value, net present value. All of those are classic financial functions. And the one we're looking for is PMT, which calculates, see the description here, it calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate, which is what is the normal situation when you borrow money to buy a car. Click OK. And in this case, it comes up with a help. So the approach we've used, by using this, it indicates that you want help in finding out how to do each of these. So as the cursor blinks here, you'll see down here, it explains what the rate is and how to do it. So for example, if it's quarterly, you divide by 4. And this is very valuable as a prompt if you get into an exam and your brain freezes. In our case then, we want to reference the rate. Here it is, it's 5%. And in this case, APR applied monthly, because the monthly payments, the rate is also typically applied monthly. So I have to actually take the annual interest rate and divide it by 12. And you'll notice here that it calculates the portion of the interest rate which would be applied in 1 month. Net present value is what you essentially, the value of the loan now. So the value of the loan. So let's just click on that cell there, and it shows it is 5,000. The oh crap, that's wrong. Well, let's fix that. Net periods. Let's actually read what it says. Calculates the payment for the loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. And per is the total number of payments for the loan. So as you can see, I jumped ahead instead of reading this, and you may do that in an exam if you're in a hurry. Don't do that. So let's go back, let's fix that. Where are the number of periods? Well, actually the number of periods are here. Yes and no, because the length of the loan is 3 years, but again, you need to punctuate that into months. You need to divide it into months just as you did the rate. So in this case then, the number of periods is years times 12. Why? Because you have 12 months in every year. So actually, as you can see here, you have 36 periods because you apply the interest rate monthly and you make a payment monthly. And now we get to present value, and that's here, it's the present value, the total amount that the series of future payments is worth now. Well, what is it worth? To the bank, the loan is worth what they give you now. So that's where the 5,000 goes. I will not edit out my mistake. I'll let you think about what it means to fix things. All right, so notice that it gives you a result here, and it gives you a negative result. Why? Well, I just finished pointing out that this is the present value worth to, I guess, to both of us, but really to the bank. What they want is the future payments. They're going to collect these payments, and that's in exchange for giving me $5,000 now. So when you think about that, then I make that point because if I look at the loan from my perspective, I am getting $5,000, and in return I am giving up the $149. If I did it from the bank's perspective, the negative would be here. This would be a negative $5,000. They give up the $5,000, and then this would be a positive. So for example, if I even just go in here and I say negative, so it's negative 5,000, you see that now this becomes a positive, and that would be from the bank's perspective. But we're not the bank, we're borrowing the money, so it's getting 5,000 now and giving up $149.85 a month as a result. I can click OK, and there we have the negative amount that I am going to have to pay in order to get this loan. So now that we've created the car loan calculator, we want to do a couple of more things with it. Under the Data tab, you're going to see something called What If. And what if has a number of different things that we do later on in the course. You'll do data table. But for today we're going to talk about goal seek and scenario manager. Let's start with goal seek. And maybe before we do that, let's kind of zoom in on this a little bit. So under view, we zoom to selection, and we get a nice big view of our loan calculator. So here's a case where if we know the loan amount, know the length of the loan, and know the interest rate, then we know our payment. What if it works the other way, where maybe we know the loan amount, maybe we know the interest rate, but we have to decide or want to decide how much we can spend on the actual car payment. In other words, how much car can I buy and still afford the payment? And let's say for this example that my budget, my monthly budget, allows me to pay up to $200 a month for my car payment. So that's where the goal seek comes in, because it allows us to go backwards from the function to setting one of these. Let's go back then to data, and under data, under what if analysis, choose goal seek. So in this scenario, we're going to change this to minus 200 because we want to have a payment of $200. And the manipulation then is of one of these factors. In this case, we are confident of the 3-year loan. We're confident of the 5%. It's how much we can change this to be to hit a $200 a month payment. And then we click OK, and goal seek quickly runs through the scenarios, or pardon me, the possibilities. And if I click OK, you'll see I now have a $200 a month payment, and it tells me it modified this to be the correct loan amount to accomplish a $200 a month payment. This is important as I try to play around with things. I could have manually done that here, but goal seek very quickly accomplished what I was trying to achieve here. While we're here, before I move on to anything else, let's rename this tab the way we have other tabs, and let's call this, of course, the car loan calculator. The next thing is, suppose we want someone else to be able to do this. These values here are the only part that we would want somebody else changing if they were using our calculator. We would want to leave everything else the way it is. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually in 2 steps that we protect a sheet from being changed. The first thing we actually have to do is prepare these cells so that they can be changed once we put on security. It's sort of like in a house when you have to identify where you want sensors to be or whatever, and then you turn on the protection afterwards. So in this case, see this locked under, this is under Format Cells, Protection. I take off the check mark here. So the locking, see how it says locking cells has no effect until you protect the worksheet. So the locking, we didn't notice the locking because we have not turned on protection. But once we turn on protection, we don't want these cells locked. So if I click OK, and then I go down here and I am going to right click on the car loan, and I am going to protect the sheet. And this is what it'll do. It'll select lock, it'll allow me to select locked cells, select unlocked cells, but I won't be able to do anything else. I could put in a password. In this case, I won't because there's no need. Now, having turned on protection, watch what happens. If I try to type here, I get the message that it's a protected sheet. On the other hand, if I come here to the loan and I say I want a 3.5-year loan, that change is allowed and it automatically recalculates. So this would allow me to, send this to my grandmother, to someone else who I wanted them to be able to make changes. The other thing I might do is change the color of these cells so that it's identified that these are the cells that can be changed. Maybe let's see if I can even make a change while it's protected. No, I can't. See, I can't even, because I didn't, I can select format these unlocked cells, but I can't change formatting because of the fact that the tab is protected. I can right click, choose unprotect. It didn't ask me for a password because I didn't set a password, and now you will notice that anything is editable, and I can then go ahead and slightly modify the format so that it's identified as something different than the rest. I can go back now and again protect the sheet, save this. I could do file save, and then that would be it.
Now we want to do the scenario manager. Scenarios are different combinations of multiple factors. We played with one here to get to 200. We're back to 5,000 here. Before we do the scenario manager, there's one little step that will make our results much better, and that is the naming of these. Right now, this is just known as B2, but if I go into what's called the name box, I can actually call this, say, loan amount. Now make sure there are no spaces. Press enter. The next one, instead of B3, let's call this loan length. And then finally, this will be the, well, not finally, because we want to do, but this one's interest rate. Notice I can use caps and spaces. And then, of course, this is going to be payment. Now, let's call it loan payment. Loan payment. Okay, and hit enter. So now we're going to go ahead and go and get our scenario manager. Again, it's under data, what if analysis. We add goal seek here. Let's go with scenario manager. Now, so far we have no scenarios, but we're going to add some. So let's add a scenario, and let's call this base scenario. And we're going to change the base, or we're going to change these values to affect the base scenario, or to be the base scenario. So now we go ahead and click OK. And so now it asks us what values we want for this scenario. So we'll just leave this as a loan of 5,000, length is 3, and notice the interest rate now is not with the percent symbol, but the actual underlying value of 0.05. So that's going to be it. And if we only had the one scenario, we're good to click OK, but we want to add. So now our next scenario is option 1, and click OK. And again, it's the same cells were selected. I didn't change that. So let's say that we're going to go with $10,000 and 4 years, and our interest rate climbs to 6%. So let's add that. And then we have a second option. This is our really going for broke here. Notice that it's again going to change the same cells. I didn't change. Let's go to $50,000. We're going to do that, and we are going to go 5 years, and our interest rate jumps substantially to 8.5%. So this is our last one. We don't have to add any more, so we can click OK. And so we have base, option 1, option 2. So let's go ahead and have the summary for that. Based on the result cell being B6, OK. And it now is it creates a new tab. Notice it's a new tab. And in that, see our names of our cells. If we had not renamed the cells, this would say like B2, B3, and that's not very helpful to have that in a separate spreadsheet. So here we are with the various values across here. Oh, okay, so this is the current. I didn't make any changes. Base is this. Option 1 was this, and option 2 was this, and here are the resulting payments. So this allows us, again, to play with multiple values, changing them and seeing what the whole scenario looks like. And that's a pretty useful tool.